And you guys know him as one of the best streamers out there, who is teaching the gaming world about the real economic downtrodden and what it's going to take to
really
succeed.
is Larry Davis.
We are big fans of his. Really I'm sure you are as well. Vaush, welcome back to Generational Change.
Oh my goodness, hello. Was that Larry goddamn Davis?
Okay, that's so funny. You said that. No, but we were talking about how he often gets mistaken. And actually, that's Harvey K. He is a professor at Wisconsin in Green Bay. He's socialist. He's very leftist. We were having like a labor panel, and he actually hates Seinfeld because of all, like, it basically is the antithesis of everything that he's about. But it's just so funny because everyone thinks he looks like Larry David.
That's a dead ringer. He could make a lot of money with like just impersonating him somewhere like in Hollywood Boulevard or whatever. Like people just be, oh yeah, $5 an autograph. He could make a lot. He's had people come up to him.
That's what he was saying. Like, he's actually had people come up to him and ask him if he's Larry David.
That's incredible. I'd say go for it, honestly. There's no higher honor than just making it all off like a Seinfeld impersonator. Truly the height of what would you call it? Like ethical production, a socialist dream. How you guys doing?
We're good. So are you how familiar are you with Seinfeld stuff? Because you're definitely way younger.
I've never actually seen the show, but I've seen so much like cultural downstream stuff, that I feel like I'm kind of familiar anyway.
So you understand the Festivus? So you've heard of Festivus?
I've certainly heard of it, yeah. Though I don't. Is it Christmas? It's a Christmas thing? I don't actually know.
Okay, so Festivus it's from Seinfeld. It's a reference to Seinfeld. And basically, Jerry Stiller was the actor, the comedian, and he played Costanza's father. And he's like this wackadoo. And he, when George was little, created this holiday because he just had to find a better way. And he created a Festivus for the rest of us. And it was like all these ridiculous things. You had the airing of grievances, the feats of strength. And you see, we have our aluminum pole. And it was the most ridiculous thing ever. And so that's what Festivus is. It's from Seinfeld. It's a Seinfeld reference.
I like that feats of strength bit. I like that a lot. The idea of a bunch of strong men like huddled around a fire tossing rocks.
Well, it could be that, but how it was done on Seinfeld is you have to take down the host, basically. You take turns until you pin the host.
Until you pin me, George. Festivus isn't over.
Like, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. So we've never actually had feats of strength on this show, but that would be really amusing. We'd need a much bigger studio.
You don't pay people to fly out there and physically fight you every holiday?
No. We don't have money to pay for guests. Are you kidding me? What do we do?
We're trying our best to become more relevant as best we can. Obviously, this is one of the panel discussion shows where a lot of people find us, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys aren't so bad."
Yeah, you
We're
do.
Like just acquired taste.
Host the Festivus at a local sports bar and just sort of incorporate the feats of strength by starting bar fights, and you'll be fine. You'll be dandy. You'll find your content.
Do you think that could be our niche?
Well, I think if we were capable of hosting in like location, I mean, that could be fun.
Yeah, it could be fun.
We could have to do a pretty good job. So how do you look at 2022 as we end it?
If you had to air, really the key thing of Festivus is the airing of grievances. So that's really what we've been doing is people come on and air their grievances. Last year, some people even actually had written lists. So, it's kind of, what would you say would be your, like, some of your grievances, and it doesn't have to be just this year. I mean, we sort of do it as an end of the year thing, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, there's certain topics that you may want to cover. So
please air grievances.
Oh, that's rough for me because I get along so well with everyone. I can't even think of anything. I mean, I don't know the concept.
I have a grievance with you.
Hit it.
I'll get to it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You have a grievance with Vaush.
Well, I do actually. I do. You just had to platform Jackson Hinkle. You just had to do it.
Oh God. Yeah.
This is going to be his grievance with you.
Well, I swear to God, man, he is like, and I know. I guess my question for you is, there's a lot of like imitators on, stream services and all different things that people will do in order to garner clout, support, things like that. He's particularly egregious because he's just such a dickhead. But I'm just kind of curious from your perspective,
I don't even know this person.
What is the motivation? Like what is, he claims that he's like, oh yeah, I'm totally for, you know, I'm a populist, I'm this, I'm MAGA this, I'm communist. I'm just like, no, you're just trying to make money. That's what you're doing. And he parlayed having a debate with you, which obviously, you know, you buried him, but he, you know, he wants to claim that he was somehow victorious and like, oh, Vaush just didn't want to do this, he didn't want to do that. And why do so many people gravitate to that crap, I guess is the question.
Oh God, that's a really complicated. No, I kind of share this grievance. I think the big issue is, so he used to be like a big Hillary Clinton kind of guy.
Yes.
And people say like, oh, he's changed so much. I don't think he actually has. I think that he's always just believed in one thing, which is just kind of like pure power, just like the grift in its most absolute form. Like nothing else actually matters. Any belief he has to have that facilitates that is the right one to him. And as a product of that, like it seems shiftless from our side of things, but that's, I mean, he's kind of like perfect for that because he's very sort of naturally spineless. I think a lot of people, especially young people and very insecure people whose lives aren't going very well, they don't, when they go online, whether you're talking about gaming or politics or whatever else, they're not really looking for like entertainment so much as they are looking for like a social avenue to validate their lives. And I think that people like Jackson are really good at providing that because he basically like shiftlessly dips in between 17 different iterations of, you know, actually this is the correct politics and I'm the apex of masculinity. And if you disagree with that, it means that you're in the outside group and you're without worth and blah, blah, blah. I think it's just a way of like grappling 15-year-olds with their parents' money.
But you just wanted to chat with him, right? Like you were just like, you'll talk to whoever.
Well, he wanted to talk about the conspiracy theory that Assad never used chemical weapons against his own people. I did a bunch of research on like, oh yeah, you know, the claims made by this one guy were totally like inaccurate. And I did a bunch of research on that. I was literally researching like the specific blast damage on a building to see if it corresponded to the claims that it could have been a like Moab that was dropped or whatever, like a big helicopter bomb rather than gas. I did all this research, and then I actually talked with him, and none of it mattered because he basically just like sat there and went, well, what if the official story isn't true for 2.5 hours? So it's pretty, it's pretty fun.
I have, I obviously have, you know, my doubts, and I don't know what to trust. I think in terms of, you know, there's like so little that we really know in terms of our government as far as what goes on domestically, foreign policy wise. We know significantly less than that. When I look at what's going on right now, you know, regarding Ukraine, it's one of those situations where if you're going to be anti-war, then this isn't a case of saying, all right, I disagree with the way that the US is involved with Ukraine, but that doesn't mean that you go and side with Putin. It's like, if the goal is to ultimately end this war, which is my goal, which I think is most people's goal, however quickly it can be done, then saying that, oh, well, I totally agree with, you know, the side of, you know, Russia and, you know, everything about, you know, Ukraine is they're all controlled by Nazis. It's this need for not to be contrarian. There's like a technical word for it. It's like you're a
contrarian.
Well, yeah, or an opportunist. You know, you're looking to be well, even a contrarian, I guess, could be, you know, one way of looking at it is to just say, well, whatever is the overall consensus, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yes, that is a contrarian.
So that I think is, and there's a real market for that because we are such a divided country right now. And a big part of the discussion that we've been having this evening relates to, you know, the railroad workers and what happened to them. And the fact that labor is really the unifying issue of our time.
We have a question.
We do have a question. We could go to that. Satanic Cabal wants to know, Vaush, speaking of ethical production, is it possible to have ethical consumption under capitalism? Is it even possible? If not, should we even try?
I think you should try, right? I mean, I think it's good to try, but ultimately, like, the systems are always going to grind out unethical behavior. So there's not really anything that any individual behavior can do about that. Even if you live some kind of like hypothetically perfect, like you're vegan and you take a bike everywhere and so on, you will always find ways to contribute to bad systems. As long as you can acknowledge that and try to do as best as you can in spite of it, I think that's fine, right? I mean, we all try the best we can. Nobody can do perfect.
No. And, the things that they try to convince us are our own personal responsibility is really in their avoidance of handling things at the macro level. And I'm not saying that individuals don't have a responsibility. Like, I don't use plastic straws. If they come, I don't open them. I don't use them because I don't like the idea of a straw that I use stuck in some, turtle's nostril somewhere out in the ocean. And so I just don't use it. But that's not going to solve the climate crisis, and I think that they put so much individual responsibility. It's really a good way of shifting the real burden. This is a major problem. So like whether or not I boycott a particular business like a Walmart or an Amazon, that's not where the problem has to be addressed much higher up than that. Like we're way past that working at this point. That's
you have to keep your eyes on the prize. Like the most fucked up thing you can do, I think, is try to leverage your good habits as a way of avoiding systemic critique, So because you use the paper straws or because you bike to work or whatever, you get this feeling of like, oh, well, I'm not part of the problem. But in reality, like it was never that you as an individual were part of the problem. The problem was like this really big systemic thing. And you're kind of individualizing it in a way that really benefits the people who are actually themselves the problem,
Right. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's what and that's like courtesy of propaganda from the fossil fuel industry and all of and whatever plastic production companies and all of that stuff. Like you're only going to get so much information. Yeah, well, I don't shop at Walmart just because I don't like it. And I do think it's a crappy company, but me boycotting it is not going to solve the problem. Right. Like there's a lot of people I know that don't go to Walmart for that, but that's not going to solve the problem.
Yeah, boycotts are generally not that effective way of solving systemic problems. They can work pretty well in like a localized sense, like the black bus rider boycotts in the South during the civil rights. Those are because that's very targeted, that's very local. But like it's like boycotting Amazon. Like, okay, yeah,
right.
We're not reversing this trend with individual action. That shit's gonna take policy.
Right. Right. And the problem is that all the people, when you have people like the head of Amazon owns the Washington
Post. Yeah.
Right. It's like you could see how people might feel defeatist about ever really being able to do anything when the fourth estate is owned by the same people it's supposed to be like protecting us.
It's like seeing a headline from the WAPO the other day, basically saying that war with Iran is inevitable. I'm just like, God in heaven. And when I say democracy dies,
it is. Really, all wars are inevitable when you're controlled by a military-industrial complex.
Yeah, and I mean the way we see it, if you're able to unite labor in some facet, and what we've discovered is when it comes to living wage, universal health care, civil liberties, even things like criminal justice reform and ending the wars, and then maybe even the biggest one of all, building out a clean energy grid. As you've often said, it's really about the language. Clean energy grid sounds better, more appealing to most people than a Green New Deal.
People are turned off to the concept of Green New Deal because of the whole, marketing matters, branding matters.
But if we're able to unite across the labor board, which seems to be very effective these days, I think that that's really something that doesn't get talked about enough. But I think we could probably get a lot of people on board, especially those that get marred down in the wedge issue dilemmas and all of that stuff. If you can unite around labor, I think that that's the ticket for the future. And especially right now, the way things are going, it just seems to be getting worse and worse every day. Most people can't, afford to live. So how do you fix it? Well, history of labor has always been, how you get it done.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm hoping that public sentiment runs more in favor of labor following the rail strikes, I haven't actually seen much like authentic, honest, homegrown anti-union sentiment. It seems every time I see something about the labor strike that, Biden has blocked with the railroads, it seems like when people, like not just, the financial sector or whatever, when they talk about it, I feel like I see a lot of sympathy, despite the fact that a rail strike could legitimately contribute to a lot of negative economic, trends right now. And that gives me some hope. The idea that, even in times of some hardship, people are willing to think positively of organized labor. Hopefully that, we'll get something from that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that is the common denominator, because we're not going to, that's what is going to bring people to even discuss what we have always considered progressive issues, if we would stop calling them progressive issues and just call them like working class issues, because this is a class war. That's what we're seeing. And a lot of the other stuff is definitely like tactics to keep us all divided. And it's very, very effective. And that's one of the things we're talking about. Like the whole just two-party system is completely created as like this facade for the ruling class. And we're just all sort of just milling around fighting amongst each other. And it's very, very frustrating. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I don't do debates. I don't want to do debates. I believe what I believe. If new information comes to light, I'm very happy to listen to it and take it in. But I think debates are gratuitous and they're generally done just for people to like stick it to each other.
Oh, they're terrible. You're doing the right thing.
Okay. So, but you apparently are very good at this. Like this is something that you do. So I just wanted you to talk about like this past year, like reflect on, have there been any really good debates that you've had that were worthwhile, or are they just like at this point somewhat ridiculous and you do it because it's like you just do it?
Oh, they've always been ridiculous. And I do it because it's a good way of like spreading my message, my ideology. People find it entertaining and they're more likely to listen to messages they find entertaining. In terms of like a debate that like prompted interesting discussion or like enriched people intellectually, no. No, it's a terrible format for that. It's very, very bad for that. But one of my arguments has always been that as sort of tasteless as it may seem, it can be really beneficial to get good at participating in like the grungier, more bad faith kinds of political engagement, because the right has that down. Like a lot of people get radicalized over to the far right because they're like boomers who listen to talk radio where some guy with a wattle neck is screeching about how gay people are ruining America. And like there's nothing of value to this intellectually. They do it anyway, and it works, and it brings a lot of people over. I think the most we can strive to be is honest. As long as we're honest, and I certainly try to be, I think you can get your hands dirty with as much stupid, bad faith fucking debate bullshit as you want, because you're trying your best to make the world a better place when you engage with people like that.
Right. Well, your message is whatever your message is, right? Like, and what's interesting is somebody who I wasn't in debate in high school because I was like more newspaper oriented, but as somebody who went to law school and had to do like moot court and mock trial and all this stuff, like I'm very familiar what is a legitimate debate. Like I know what a legitimate debate is, and I love to watch a real debate. I have a picture of Christopher Hitchens hanging up on my wall. Like I am about a good debate. It's all good. But what people in politics say is a debate. No, it's not. It's arguing moot points. I don't want to argue. I'm not going to argue universal healthcare any more than I'm going to argue with a flat earther. Like, I'm just not going to, like, what is to be gained from that? And I just don't have the patience for it. And some of the people you deal with, there are some levels of stupid that I've seen that you talk to, even just audio, that I just don't even know how you keep a straight face.
Oh, that's the case. Well, I often don't. I mean, oftentimes these debates are just about finding ways to make fun of them in funny ways. Well, it comes down to that, right? I mean, especially like you say, universal healthcare, right? Like there are some interesting conversations you can have about universal healthcare based on like a pragmatic deal.
Yes.
Like, okay, well, how would that system work? How would you pay for it? Okay, those questions aren't necessarily bad faith. You can have a good convo, and it gets complicated. And there are real trade-offs, The government, much as it can do a lot more than it is right now, doesn't have limitless money and power. What might we lose through universal healthcare? Something, sometimes, maybe. But
no, we could debate the different systems that would work.
Yeah.
I won't debate whether or not we're entitled to have it.
No, exactly. And that's the other kind.
My point, right.
It's that ethical foundation. And then you'll have people who will discuss the granular bits, and that's good. But then you'll have people who will just be like, actually, I think the poor should just have to suffer, because otherwise they'll like, I don't know, they'll like get lazy. I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, what the fuck? What, like, how am I engaging with this? Come on, fuck you. Like, and then you just make fun of them.
Pull yourself up from your bootstraps, people. Listen, I'm not talking with those people because we're not living in the same universe.
Listen, that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. If you ever decide that you want to debate me, Vaush, I will definitely debate you, and you are definitely
He's trying to be Ben Shapiro.
Oh, I recognize. That's a good impression.
You're definitely going to lose, and I am totally a masculine male. I am totally all about pleasing my wife and being a champion of the populist right.
You didn't know what wet pussy was. You're not about pleasing your wife.
You're speaking very inappropriately, and
I'll speak inappropriately.
Do you understand that it is listen, it is Shabbos right now, and you are speaking very inappropriately.
It is Shabbos. Why are you here?
You are dressed very inappropriately, and you shouldn't be talking like that. But believe me, Vaush, I will meet you on that debate stage, and I will crush you.
He might crush me with his arms too. He's been working out.
I think he wears lifts.
He's been beefy.
He wears lifts in his shoes.
I think he'd be a worthy opponent. If there's ever a guy I want to do, what do they call it, chess boxing with? It would be Ben Shapiro. That would be good content. That would be incredible content.
But do you ever feel look, you are actually a really smart philosophical type person.
Oh.
Like you actually could be engaged in real debates that are interesting, right? Like you know what I mean? Like that are actually good. And instead you're sort of, sometimes it's like a cat with a mouse just sort of toying with it for fun.
I think that as a leftist, and as a progressive, being correct is a very easy side of the conflict. It's the easiest. It's kind of a gimme, to be honest. The difficult thing is being correct and getting people to listen to you. And the more I've done what I do, the more I've realized that's the actual battleground there. I've heard correct arguments towards every position I believe in being delivered my entire life fruitlessly. How many correct arguments have been made to the effect of climate change being a real threat to humans, right? I mean, we've been hearing this stuff since, at least I have, since I was a little kid, and things remain as they are. The real kicker is, how effectively can keep people to, actually change their behavior on account of it. And that, to me, is the real skill ceiling. That's what I try to focus on. And that's what I'm, always trying to learn more at, because it's actually very difficult to get people to listen to you.
So what's your mission? What are you trying to do?
Well, right now, I'm just mostly concerned with the imminent fascist takeover of the United States.
It's valid concern.
Yeah, the Republican Party is very committed to anti-democracy at the moment, like with a consistency and a shamelessness that we've just really haven't ever seen before. And the Democrats are just chilling. It seems like
they're Mick resistance. That's Mick resistance.
That's yeah. Like we get the Jan 6 committee's recommendation to prosecute Donald Trump. The issue here isn't Donald Trump. Donald Trump's just the guy who's there at the moment. Like the entire party apparatus for the GOP is fully committed to this. If it's not Trump, it'll be DeSantis or anyone else. But we're just kind of sleepwalking into this. Very disappointing. But,
well, we definitely think it is DeSantis at this point. Although Margaret Kimberly, who was on the panel before, does think that Josh Hawley is going to run for president, and I could see that. I don't know if that's going to happen in 2024, but it just stands to reason that we're kind of living through this whole, neoliberalism nightmare all over again.
Well, we're in this post-neoliberalism uprising, and people are going to the right because there is no left.
No, I completely agree. And frankly, not only is there no left, there's not even like a liberal left. If you want a message on what the Republicans care about right now, they have an army. They have a massive, incredibly dedicated, well-funded, committed media team that will give you an extremely extensive understanding of what they're about right now. What do the Democrats have? Here's a quick question, by the way. Who are the Democrats throwing up there for 2024? We have guesses, but normally a political party, especially, a front-running political party whose current guy is 800 years old, you'd think they would have very clear, strong, early messaging on who they think strong contenders are. What do we have? Nobody knows what's going on, and as a product of that, Democrats don't have anywhere to turn when it comes to cohesive messaging. Republicans can look to literally any of their political leaders or pundits to get that kind of cohesion. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but how much of that do you think is really just motivated by the paycheck? I mean, you look at, they just did their Turning Point USA event I think it was in Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, you have, all of these individuals. The person I dislike the most is probably Steven Crowder. But, you get a lot of these individuals that figure out a way to cultivate a lot of support. But I think a lot of that stems from one thing that the right, whether it is Steven Crowder, whether it is Ben Shapiro, and then you have the flex right, if you want to call it, the Tim Pools of the world, they identify themselves as anti-establishment. And we're living in a world today where identification with, let's say, the Democratic Party, and at least the faces of the Democratic Party, is that of the DC bureaucratic establishment that people simply can't stand. And so that opens up an opportunity for those types of individuals who, Dave Rubin probably being the best example of saying, oh yeah, I'm totally an outsider. I'm totally, not for the DC establishment. Hey, by the way, buy my book, do this, do that. That's going to make me a lot of money. I think they've really cultivated that desire for the anti-establishment movement that is happening in this country. Do you see it the same way?
Oh, no, completely. Yeah, the Democrats are like violently reject. So to my mind, like both Republicans and Democrats are ultimately subservient to capital in different ways and to different extents. I think the Republicans are way worse in this respect, but ultimately, like, same master. And with Republicans, all this culture war fascism bullshit is basically just an extension of the same play run they've been doing since Reagan, which is we're going to wholeheartedly commit to like culture war talking points as a way of distracting the average voter from the fact that we are fucking them sideways with our economic policy. We're going to pass nonstop wealthy tax cuts, and you're just going to sit there and take it because also we're the ones who are keeping abortion from happening, or this or that or whatever, and they fully commit to that.
Well, we're protecting you from the gays. No, we're protecting you from the trans people in the bathroom.
The
and
trans
so
people,
somebody
right.
has to protect you from them, because those Democrats are teaching them how to just change genders in kindergarten.
From the violent, that out there. From the violent video games, from the satanic panic, hair metal bands, like always and always and always and always it goes on, and it's and like through all that. They're able to find I like populist ways of pushing their messaging that don't conflict with that appraisal of capital. But Democrats don't have that, because what happens if you go for populist left? The populist left is anti-capital. They'll actually challenge corporations, You go Bernie Sanders, and you actually see a threat to the power systems in this country. Donald Trump doesn't represent that. So for that reason, I think the Dems are terrified of their own populist wing, which means they can't really compete with Republicans on the same playing field. Nobody likes institutionalists right now. It's completely out of fashion.
No, I mean, well, but the Democrats proved that they preferred Donald Trump to Bernie Sanders. I mean, they proved that. Like, that to me is clear. They're all on the same team. The Democrats just tend to be a little bit better on social issues. So they're at least, they're kinder and gentler when they stab you. But they all dollars lead to the same people.
Still getting stabbed.
Oh, you're still getting stabbed.
That doesn't change.
They're just kinder and gentler about it. And I think people are desperate, and the Democrats don't offer anything. They stand for nothing. And when you ask who they're going to put up, as of right now, they're saying Joe. They're saying Joe's running for a second term.
Ooh,
and part of the reason why I believe the GOP is going to win in 24 is that you're really stuck in this very dangerous position of, well, we want Joe again simply because he's the incumbent president, but he's incapable of campaigning. So let's just start with that. If you don't actually have a primary, which putting South Carolina first is deliberately done to make sure that there isn't one, or at least one that isn't competitive. And so by doing that, you completely eliminate any type of enthusiasm
for a primary,
or just an enthusiasm for a candidate going into 24. And you know that whatever the GOP is going to do, no matter how bloody their primary is going to be, because eventually other people are going to get in there to join Trump, whether it is Pence, whether it is Nikki Haley, whether it is Ron DeSantis, whether it is Scott Pruitt.
Kanye West, he's going for it.
In the GIMP outfit or not. I mean, the bottom line is, that primary is going to be rough, but ultimately they will unite to beat either Joe Biden or whomever. To me, speaks of greater volumes to, we desperately need to get something going here. I mean, our thought was possibly having some type of a labor organizer, leader, run against Joe.
It's just not enough time. And the bottom line is they're going to put up Joe because that's what they've got.
No, I completely agree. It's ridiculous. There doesn't seem to be any like institutional like drive to win from the Democrats, The GOP is burning themselves through. Like they're risking a lot of internal conflict by promoting DeSantis over Trump. They're willing to put effort into what they think will suit their party most effectively in the future. Dems are just they're just sitting there, just a big easy fat target.
Well, don't you think it's sort of like that's their role? They're the Mick resistance. That's the point. Like they're not really. This is all like WWE wrestling kind of thing. Like they're all kind of friends at the end. People like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, they'll like hang out. Like this isn't it. They just play the bad guy on TV.
Yeah, I used to think that it was malicious on their part, that they were the planned opposition. But the more this happens, I actually don't think that's true. I actually think that it's, in a way, it's more sinister. It's an ideological thing. I think that liberalism and its precepts kind of leads them to believe that this civility high road bullshit. I think they mean it when they say it, you know? When Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi like get along or whatever, I legitimately think that in Nancy Pelosi's head, she's doing this like, well, by indicating that I'm willing to sit down with the opposition, I'm actually one of the people saving American democracy. And no matter how many times the Republicans like stab Democrats in the back or lie or turn their back on mutually necessary legislation, I genuinely think they believe that. I think it's like a liberal mind parasite. There's like a brain worm keeping them from understanding what's happening.
Yeah, it's also, that reminds me, we've done a few shows like this past year where we really focused on like the toxicity of neoliberalism. We had, Lily Geismer was on about her book Left Behind, really talking about how the party, like the neoliberal direction is just, that's what's killing everything. But that's what's ultimately pushing people to go behind a fascist right wing. It's the result. It's the result droppings of what was left after we had people like, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Like they've created this.
And it becomes so much easier for those individuals that we were talking about in order for them to cultivate some type of a support network, because you still see a lot of people who just think, well, capitalism actually works. It's just not working the right way. And if we just do this, that, and the other thing, no, the system is broken. Our economic and political system in this country is broken, and it needs to be fixed. It isn't going to be fixed by doing what we've done, thinking that you're just going to save it by putting Band-Aids on a gaping wound. Something as simple, Vaush, which I think is one of the most important grievances that we can have. Obviously, we have our grievances on the outside for labor, especially the railroad workers. But the grievance on the Hill that I think is just unbelievable at this point is the fact that they can't even get a vote on whether or not to ban insider trading amongst congressional representatives.
We're actually discussing that. Like that's the fact that the people doing it vote on it. It's laughable.
Come on, come on. Nancy Pelosi has to make money somehow. Come on.
So we found out, by the way, do you remember the whole thing during COVID where she's like showing off the ice cream in her freezer? You remember that whole thing,
yeah,
right?
I remember.
Okay, so it turns out she doesn't even pay for the ice cream. The company sends it to her for free anyway.
Yeah,
I just found that out last night, which is just so random. I just happened to find that out.
One day that'll be me. I only hope. What I strive. That's the American dream: is seeing corruption and going like, "Oh yeah, dude."
Sent to you.
But don't you think that at some point the corruption becomes just so brazen in everybody's face that they're just not going to take it anymore?
Well, here's the thing: in terms of in terms of like open corruption, nobody beats Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the most flagrant, like wouldn't divest from his businesses, immediately got his family members in there, like the Jared Kushner $2 billion with the Saudis thing. Like did preferential business with countries that he had like estate holdings in with like his territory. He like incredibly corrupt. But the difference is like, just in terms of pure optics, Donald Trump is able to sell anti-establishmentarianism like as a concept. He's able to make it seem like it's a thing he's doing. He's not. That's not true. He's lying, as he often does. But the Democrats don't have an interest even in an aesthetic adoption of that. The Democrat messaging is everything is fine, stay the course. We just need to try a little bit harder at what we're doing right now, and it'll all be okay. I think we
just need one more Democrat in there. We just got to get one more Democrat in there.
A little bit further, And I do think, like, I do believe that the Republicans' fear-mongering is bullshit, because the stuff they say they want to change is like, oh yeah, dude, America is dying because of trans people or whatever. But the messaging they take, like the tone of things are fucked and we need to have like we need substantial change. Fear is warranted from the position of the average American right now. That's not a lie when it's being done on our side.
No,
Well,
it's true, but it's not the trans people.
Excuse me. I would no listen. You totally brought me up, and now we have to talk. I'm not calling you Vaush. I'm calling you douche. That's your new name, and you're gonna stick with it as long as I'm around. You are totally fake news. I totally did exactly what everybody else does.
Just to give everybody a fucking nickname.
No, it's totally legal. Believe me, douche.
The sanctimonious.
We're totally
Ron DeSanctimonious.
Ron DeSanctimonious totally got in the way, but believe me, this is a festival, Festivus, whatever you call it. We are making America great again in 24. And if you get in the way, douche, we're going to have a real problem. I am a totally honest, transparent, greatest person on the planet.
You guys have both been
He's
banned
never
from
gonna
different
die.
platforms. You guys have some stuff in common.
No, we totally don't have anything.
Yeah,
in common.
exactly. We could work together.
No, no. If you want to make America great again, we can work together. That's wonderful.
We both hate women. We don't trust women. We can work together.
Women. I totally trust women.
Vaush, are you misogynist? Vaush, are you
believe-
misogynist? Is that what you're saying?
I will
No,
be
you're-
for Donald Trump.
Oh,
Okay.
that's really great. Well, women are second-class citizens. They understand that. So anyway, we're having this really great conversation about what is honest government. I am an honest person, a tremendous person,
Ugh.
and people telling me that I'm a liar. All the things that I do are for the benefit of the American people. You need to get me back in that White House.
Nobody's putting you back in the White
No, you
House.
totally have to get me back in the
I
White House.
understand that this is a bit, but I also want to point out that sincerely, that rhetoric right there is what the Democrats are missing. There is no urgency. Like listening to Biden speak is like listening to like a lecturer at like an aquarium explain the mating cycles of clownfish. There's no, it's this incredibly boring. And you know what? No matter what, like as a streamer, as a leftist, I won't tune in for a Biden speech because that shit's boring. I will for a Trump speech because that shit isn't boring.
That is because I totally understand the American people. Sleepy Joe, he's way past bedtime. He needs to go to sleep. He is really out of his element. I still don't understand how I lost that last election. It makes no sense.
It was only because of COVID and he barely won.
Well, that's very true. And if only I had cared more about the American people.
If only you cared about anybody but yourself.
Well, listen, in this world, it's either kill or be killed. And I'm not being killed. I'm living forever.
So gross.
So get out there, get yours while you can. And if you support me, we're going to make America great again in 24.
Go, you're so gross.
Great
this is actually worse than when you were Bill Clinton a few minutes ago.
Great to see you, douche. I hope to make it on your show sometime. You're really great.
I hope so too, you know? I think that would kind of be a career highlight a little bit.
It would be interesting.
But I think from the perspective of why people gravitate to him, it has more to do with this idea that, okay, well, at least I know he's being transparent about the fact that he's corrupt, whereas everyone else wants to pretend like we're not corrupt. It's just Trump. He's the only bad guy. It's like he just does it brazenly in public.
But so does Nancy Pelosi.
Well,
so does our
it's
congresswoman.
true.
They're doing insider trading, like all of it. It's just so gross.
And I think as much as people hate Trump, there's more people that hate the bureaucratic establishment that is American politics even more than they hate Trump.
Yeah.
And
well,
that's
I think that it's like the whole any individual senator might have an approval rating of like 50%, but the Senate as a whole has an approval rating of 11%. I think everybody has an understanding of some kind of like nebulous government corruption that they disapprove of. The problem is that everyone points it like it's in the other direction. Oh yeah, the nebulous government corruption, they're doing it. There's not really much consistency. Insider trading, the average American doesn't know what insider trading is. They have no clue.
Right.
They'll believe what they're taught. They'll believe if they trust the pundit, if they think the TV anchor is handsome. In terms of like a cohesive understanding of what can be done to fix this, or like who's actually at fault, I don't think that any of them know. And for that you need to focus on like simple messaging. And what the Republicans have done is they've completely consolidated their message behind being fucking dishonest and fascists. But that is a message. Whereas for the Democrats, it's like there's nothing they can say about Republicans while being honest that does not either in some way impugn them or it suggests some kind of revolutionary or radical sentiment. Because if you start attacking Republicans for being fascist insurrectionaries and then like start going after them with like sedition arrests or whatever, which would be based in red pilled, they would be doing that in a fashion which kind of implicates their collaboration with Republicans for the past like half century. there's the system as it is right now just does not permit Democrats to do anything without like kind of betraying their greater interests. So, you know, here we are, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I see why some people feel somewhat defeatist, you know, because you look at it and we're living in this like, well, I mean, it's like you have this facade of a democracy where you're offered, and this is how I was trying to explain to someone. It's like, okay, yes, you get a choice of the menu, off the menu, but someone else is providing you with the menu. So like the menu that's being provided to you, you have no choice over that. You just get a choice on that menu. So it's not real anyway. So I can understand why some people get defeatist, especially people on the extreme rights and lefts.
And I also think that there's something to be said for the fact that it doesn't really seem like any of the so-called, whether it's the Squad or even Bernie, you know, especially in light of what happened with the railroad workers, there was no real fight there.
I feel like that, yeah.
There wasn't even a fight regarding, you know, Hakeem Jeffries becoming the minority speaker, whereas on the GOP side, I mean, Kevin McCarthy has like a legitimate challenge to his speakership. And so why do you think that is? Why do you think that fight is so much greater on their side?
Why are they more democratic? The Republicans are more democratic in their electoral process.
They have
internally, they actually are. That is absolutely true. They're actually willing to shake things up because they're terrified of their base. Democrats hate their base. They don't give a fuck about them. Republicans also hate their base, but they're terrified of them. It's a very different kind of disdain. There was that report on like the Tea Party or whatever. Republicans will literally like catapult their party in whatever direction they think will appeal to like racist old white people. Whatever kind of old white racism is going on right now, whatever is in vogue, they will like panic, flop sweating. They'll be like, okay, wait, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? Running around like whatever they can do to appeal to them. There was that bombshell report that was done on Facebook like 8 months ago where it was like the way that they conduct moderation for Facebook was a bunch of European far-right parties actually moved farther right because their constituencies on Facebook had gotten so radical because of the way content was recommended to them that the parties themselves were being moved to the right to keep up with the belief systems of the people who were voting for them, which is insane.
Right. So it's a vicious cycle of pushing further and further to the right. And unfortunately, we don't have something like that on the left. See, if we had something like that on the left, and it's interesting because what Carrie's saying is their base has militias, and yeah, that's true, and they are afraid of their base. But what we need to have is where labor is our base, and they should be afraid of that.
And they should
and
be
that's what this is supposed to be.
And they could be militant, even if they're not walking around with AK-47.
Well, look, I am not a violent person. I don't condone violence, but I understand it. And I think it's really ignorant to think that we're going to really get anywhere without some level of violence. And when people are like Nancy Pelosi is wondering, why would someone break into my house? Oh, gee, I don't know, Marie Antoinette. Why would somebody break into your house? I think we're going to start seeing it more and more.
Well, that's the problem.
Again, I'm not doing it.
That guy didn't break into her house because he has a problem with insider trading. That guy broke into her house because he's a lunatic who was groomed by far-right propaganda. And that's the issue. You know, regardless of the ethics of it, it is actually really effective to just, I don't know, heighten the schizophrenic tendencies of your voter base by facilitating a nonstop 24/7 media news cycle about like QAnon adjacent propagandizing, and then just like let the craziest people do what they will. That's so much easier than radicalizing people based on something real, like insider trading or like ineffective resistance against fascist collusion. Those things, like real shit does not always beget more real reactions. In fact, oftentimes it's the opposite. The fake problems get the most attention. The satanic panic with the fucking hair metal albums played in reverse revealing satanic messages, that makes its way up to Congress. Meanwhile, like 1,000 real strikes are squashed and unions busted.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head, especially coming from LA. I mean, I remember when the Kardashians, you know, when that show came out, and I'm just thinking, this is so unbelievably bad for American culture, and yet millions and millions of people are obsessed with that type of stuff. Like that is what is considered of value today, and there is no value to it. In fact, it devalues our culture. And when it comes to real everyday issues. It's almost like if we're not doing a podcast, we're not going to name any names, Vaush. You probably know some of them, but there are podcasts who literally built their audience just by shit talking other podcasts.
He knows this.
That's what they did.
I've heard rumors of these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know,
they're out there. Well, but no, we started this because I actually wanted to do long form interviews with people that are experts and books and authors and educate people. That was sort of my point.
Well,
like,
yeah,
that was,
well, it's just a sensationalism thing, right? You see it all around the place. Oh, wait, sorry, hold on. My lights are being fucked with.
It looks like the club now. So
yeah, it looks like an ooh.
There we go. Brought it back.
Very fancy.
Yeah, me and my roommate both have the exact same remote controlled light setup. So sometimes
agreed, Virgo.
If one of us hits the lights, the other person will get hit by it. But anyway, it's like it's so difficult, I think, to get like the energy of the kinds of people who are radicalized by QAnon combined with the you know, the truth and the honest reporting and the, you know, I guess like responsible engagement that you would get from the kind of production that you would ever want to be involved in. It's really difficult to blend those two. And I don't know if anyone does it successfully. Genuinely, it's really tough to do that.
Well, I also think if you know, like I just finished watching Dope Sick for the first time. We had Beth Macy on the podcast. So of course I felt inclined to at least catch up to what's been going on. And of course, I was familiar with the Sacklers and, what they had done. And obviously the opioid crisis is completely fueled by the fact that Big Pharma owns our government. No one lobbies Capitol Hill harder than private insurance and Big Pharma. And so for anybody who has either been touched by the opioid crisis, most people have, for anybody who is tired of the corruption within the health insurance industry that runs our country, a universal healthcare single-payer system is the way out of this. And so when people are looking at it like, well, I don't want the government doing it, the government is funding it. They're not running it. We do not need for-profit middlemen in between us and our doctors. It's almost like you got to hit people over the head with that 1,000 times over before it finally starts to stick.
Yeah, I don't want the government running the system. You know who I do trust? Private insurance companies.
Yes! Right, exactly. It's been so much better. It's working out so well for us.
We're doing great. Everyone is doing great.
You've spoken about this before a few times, and it's been a while, I think, and you've talked about just healthcare in general and your own, experience in dealing with that. And it's ridiculous here.
Oh no, it's insane. I mean, the funny thing is, it's actually so bad now that being wealthy doesn't, my YouTube career is doing just fine. There are so few doctors up here in the Pacific Northwest that sometimes, even if you have a lot of money, it can take forever to get an appointment. The system is so strained right now that it is, and there are incentives that push doctors out. There's a doctor shortage. There's a nurse shortage. There are so many individual points of failure. And that's because, at every level, there's 5 million middlemen to every one doctor, to every person whose job it is to save a life. There are 50 people around them who make money adjacent to them. And they have their own entirely separate sets of incentives that very, very, very rarely coincide with ours. It's insane.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier about the oh god, what was it? It wasn't the insurance. It was the fentanyl, right? This is another one of those rhetorical things. The fentanyl crisis in America right now is primarily a product of irresponsible prescription from pharmaceutical companies. They will lobby at medical conventions and they will push doctors to recommend their product. Because getting people on incredibly addictive pain meds is a really easy way of getting them out the door quickly. And then these people all develop addictions, and it's oh, whoops, oh, haha, that's crazy. But the Republicans are the only ones talking about this, and they blame China because fentanyl comes in from China. You're ever gonna close the fucking border with China? Good luck with that one. When in reality, all it would take is anti-pharmaceutical regulations done here at home to change things. But we're not going to do it because nobody wants to call them out.
Well, they're on the payroll.
Yeah.
They're all on the payroll.
And then you wonder, at this point of his career, why Bernie isn't using his... Remember, Bernie used to do his barnstorming speeches on the House and Senate floor when no one knew who he was. If he started doing those barnstorming speeches right now, with millions and millions of people who listen to him on the regular, imagine how many people would be inspired by that. I just don't understand why that's not happening right now the way that it needs to.
I think.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
Well, I think I'm of two minds on this one. Generally speaking, especially when it comes to other leftists, I never want to assume bad faith on their part, because there's like an entire cottage industry on like, that person's betrayed the real left. The real left, will do this. And like, and then somebody else shows up and they're like, well, this person betrayed the real left. And this happens forever and ever and ever. And leftists have been killing each other over shit for ages. So it's like an ongoing problem. I trust the hell out of Bernie. My guess is like, it's one of three things. Either my man's tired, which, I mean, he is really old. So
Yes.
okay, if you guys think I'm going to be an effective political messenger when I'm like 800 or whatever, fuck no. I'm taking that money and I'm staying in my summer home. I'm surprised he bothers at all.
That's what I say.
That's one. And I think the other one is like, my guess might be that he's terrified of causing like rustling within the Democratic Party right now, because he doesn't see a road forward for the left at this particular moment in time. But he does see a point where any weakness in the Democrats is very useful to like the fascists. So he might be like very unwilling to, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if that's right on his part, but that is a concern I could see being valid, depending on how you looked at it.
Well, I see us as we are sliding down the mountain, and now we're sliding down the mountain very quickly. And the quicker we fall down that mountain, the easier it's going to be for somebody who, whether he's a fascist or not, he is at least an authoritarian, no question. But Ron DeSantis will appeal to a lot of this country for a lot of reasons. He's got the picture-perfect family. He's got the picture-perfect pedigree from the fact that he was a star athlete. He's Ivy League educated. He served our country, was a soldier, and
tortured a lot of people. We love that.
Tortured a lot. Hey, even better.
Yeah, no, yeah, we love that shit.
Definitely agrees with that. And then you have this real or imagined, mostly imagined, he kept Florida free. And for a lot of this country, that's resonating right now. And if you don't have anything to fight back against that, you're in a lot of fucking trouble in the future. And it's going to be not only to the detriment of the nation, because I do believe that if it is Biden versus DeSantis, especially because DeSantis is 40 years younger than Biden is, I mean, he is going to run circles around him out there. His wife, Casey, is so easy on the eyes from the way that she speaks, the way she looks.
Thank God DeSantis is super uncharismatic. At least we have that going for him.
He's got his, it's almost the opposite, because he has Casey. Everyone has always said that his political ascendancy has a lot to do with her, that she has played a significant role in that. And he's got the most adorable children.
But it's not like Joe is Mr. Charisma.
That's the problem.
Oh, no, for sure. I'm just, I find DeSantis very distasteful to listen to, because I just feel like he's trying to like do a workshop Don bit. But he doesn't have any energy, so it just comes across kind of pathetic. But that's a me thing, you know. America's going to resonate with it. He's going to ride hard off the he kept Florida free bullshit. Even though he was literally sending like agents of the state to go shut down reporters who were talking about like Florida's death toll from COVID and everything. But it doesn't matter.
Well, here's the thing.
Reality doesn't matter.
The authorities. Here's the thing. This should honestly, his slogan should be, "I'm an authoritarian, but I get shit done."
That's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to say. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but it's like. But let me say this. So we just recently had that hurricane here, and he got that bridge put up to Sanibel really fast. And I have no doubt that if that were Charlie Crist sitting there, that bridge would not have gotten done as fast as it got done.
And one thing that people never emphasize enough when it comes to the WWE that is the political arena, the average voter gravitates towards leaders, authoritarian for the most part, who want to kick ass and take names. And they don't care if it's actually being done to the benefit of the worker. Because so many people, I truly believe this, Vaush. I believe that one of the reasons why a lot of people have, a lot of young people, especially a lot of young entrepreneurial, independent-minded people are gravitating towards the GOP. Their attitude has basically become, well, I can't fix the system, I can't change it, so I might as well go to the party that actually wants to help me succeed. Like, I think that's in part and parcel the mindset that a lot of them take.
The Peter Thiel line. This is like the modern Silicon Valley fascist bit, where it's like they're not ideologically fascist in the sense of like blood for land, glory to the fatherland, whatever, but more so they see America like a failing startup. And what you do with a failing startup is you clear out management and you get a new go-getter up there on top. A lot of people think that authoritarianism means getting shit done. In reality, it often doesn't. Bureaucratic and managerial subsystems tend to fail in authoritarian regimes. A lot of things get gummed up, but they're very good at making a show of the couple of things that do end up getting pushed through really quickly. Because, of course, transcending democracy means you can get stuff done faster. Of course, you're skipping deliberation. And they're really good at weaponizing that politically. And I completely agree. Democrats have fully abandoned this line. The idea of like, we are go-getters who will get stuff done, gone. Democrats don't even bother. It's done. It's dead. That idea is just not something they care about selling people on. And that's what people want to hear right now. It's what I want to hear, I want to believe, even if it's a fucking Democrat, I want to believe that when I vote for somebody, they're going to be like an activist in office. They're going to sit there and they're going to take their time to, in every way possible, promote the values I voted them in for. But Democrats, it's just, hey, don't worry about it. We've been doing this for a long time, and we're going to keep doing it the way it's going because it's going fine. Wink. And that just doesn't sell with anyone anymore. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but I do feel this way.
No, it's the problem. There's no real choice.
Yeah, it is sad.
It's crap or crappier.
I know we've mentioned this before you've been on, but if you haven't had the opportunity to check out Whole Washington, they really are a great grassroots group. They're trying to get a ballot initiative in the state of Washington to basically have single-payer healthcare. Now, everyone says, well, you can't do it at the state level if you don't have the backing of the federal government in terms of the, being able to have the currency to have the funding for it properly. If for whatever reason there's a short, well, the goal, of course, is to make sure, and Tom Hartman, who's been on our podcast multiple times, has brought this up, is that the only way it could work at the state level is if there's like this clause that is on at the federal level which essentially like it prevents states from accessing federal funds for the purposes of things like healthcare. Shocking. If we are going to be able to do any type of legitimate pushes, I think focusing on policies, focusing on this coalition building, and especially something like a ballot initiative, that's what works here in Florida. The best things we get in Florida are ballot initiatives.
It's gonna fucking say, I'm so sorry. I was gonna say that earlier. One of the biggest indictments against Democrats is the fact that if you put policies on the table, America is in favor of Democrat-aligned policies 2-1 almost every time. The fact that Kansas fucking shot down that state constitutional amendment to allow for abortion bans, while voting in Republicans across the board, is such a disgusting indictment of Democrats, because it means that when you strip Democrats away from Democrat policy, all of a sudden it's an uncontroversial win. Republicans win elections despite a minority of the country caring about their policies, and Democrats lose elections despite a majority of people in the country caring about their policies. It's insane. This should be a layup for them.
3 extremely red states, Kansas, Kentucky, and Montana, all voted to codify Roe because the people had an opportunity to vote for it. The only state that has made it ironclad law, and people are going to fight it, we'll see what happens, but Indiana obviously rejected a woman's right to choose. But why did that happen? Because the GOP state legislature decided on their own. They didn't give the people the opportunity to have a say-so. And so that's the problem. the overwhelming majority of the people in this country, when it comes to the issue at bar, know how to vote the right way. They may have their reasons for voting GOP or voting Democrat, but when it comes to those, it's like when people say, well, you know, they say that 80 to 85% of the country believes in a universal healthcare system, but, you know, when they learn this, that, no. Most people are not as dumb as you think they are. When they're given the opportunity to really understand a serious issue, like whether or not they want to have for-profit middlemen in between them and their doctor, people understand what that means. And they know they don't want that. When it comes to whether or not a woman has the right to choose what to do with her own body, overwhelmingly, people know exactly what to do.
Well, along the same line, we had Trump won Florida, but that same year we passed a $15 minimum wage by ballot initiative.
Yeah.
And yet we can't get our Democratic Party to be pushing for a living wage.
Re-enfranchising felons, which the Republicans immediately were like, wait, and then undid with by putting a it is pretty disappointing. I know that Republicans have been increasingly upset over the past half century because every passing decade, all of the degeneracy they fight against becomes more and more popular. And that's great and that's fun at all. But the fact that all you have to do to sell people on Democratic policy is not bring in the Democrats is such an indictment of them as a party. And it's like, it is, if ever there was an ability to do a party-wide, like, vote of no confidence, they have fucking earned it. They find, it's incredible. They find ways to make good things seem unappealing almost every time to a lot of Americans. Phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no. and I've also meant to say, as long as I'm rambling, that a lot of this also comes down to media spread. Democrats don't have any way to get their messaging out if they even had a message they wanted to share, which is its own problem. But outside of that, like in terms of television, the Republicans, Tucker Carlson, whatever bullshit, most popular on TV. In terms of the internet, TikTok, owned by China, kind of a wash there, but they do ban gay people for being gay, so that's not great. Twitter, currently owned by a far-right lunatic, Elon Musk. Facebook and Instagram, owned by Zuckerberg. Also, Facebook, far-right hellhole, in terms of, like, publications, left-wing publications online have a paywall that you need a subscription. Right-wing publications don't. At every level, they're just better at getting their message out there.
How about the fact that YouTube is so damn suppressed and everyone has been saying, well, listen, Rumble tends to be definitely on the right, but at least you'll get your message out. Whether people will like it or not is a matter of circumstance. But, at least they're not trying to keep it, shut down. But I still think it all gets back to, Greg, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. This has been a great night. You guys have been fantastic.
Yes, our top three are going to get the pencils.
Going to get the pencils.
Top three are getting our Festivus pencil sets.
Vaush, you've hit it on the head, and I think everyone just needs to understand that this is really all about labor. Anything that will fundamentally change the economic and political infrastructure of this country is when the two parties will unite to crush us. And that's what happens. And we have to recognize that all of this other, as you said, bullshit that people get distracted by, like which podcasters talking shit about who or God knows what.
Well, hold on. I love talking shit about podcasters. Let's not take away my favorite pastime, okay? Now you're coming for my rights, huh?
No, I'm not going to take away your right, because at least what you do isn't centered around talking shit about other people. You talk about things that really matter.
No, he plays video games.
I play video games and I shit talk people, and that's what I love to do. No, I fully. There is like a strong non-productive tendency. Oh, speaking of, wait, do I want to shit talk a podcast right now? Okay. There's another podcast very popular on the left that I'm not going to name. Okay, they rhyme with Schmappo Schmophouse. And look, I'm not going to doubt the lefty creds in these people, because that'd be pretty dumb. They are leftists. However, after Bernie kicked it in the primaries, I feel like there was like a real loss of hope on their part that led to a diminishing of the value of some of their takes. I've said this a billion times before. I'm not airing this to new here. In fact, you two completely disagree. You have no qualms whatsoever with Chapo Trap House. You've told me so before. Just me. But I will say, like, the more things get fucked in this country, the more necessary it is that we find excuses to focus on literally anything other than infighting. It's one of the reasons why over the past year or so, I have been like, I've been biting my tongue, you know, like I've been really trying to not argue with other people on the left, and I think I've done like kind of well in that regard. It's something that I've had to put effort into because as a leftist, you know, the first people you go after are other leftists, but it's really worth the effort. And I don't know. Hopefully it amounts to something because we really need that solidarity right now.
Desperately. We can't thank you enough for coming on. Obviously, this has been
I always love chatting with you.
This has been a great
Likewise.
festival.
I find you very
Yes.
interesting.
Oh, well, I love talking with you both as well. First of all, phenomenal DJT impression. Second of all, you're incredibly pleasant to talk to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you,
very
since you're such a great guy, I'll give you one more.
Uh-oh, who
Hit
else
me.
do we have?
Well, we've got the kid. Well, we got the guy we love.
Okay. All right. This is the only one that makes me feel like I don't have to move over 3 feet.
Vaush, I just want to say, if you had any idea what I have to go through on a daily basis up on the Hill, it is not fun. Jed, it's great to see you. This is the Festivus for the rest of us. It's a very important holiday. It should be a national holiday. We should have a 3-day weekend. Festivus, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Should be great.
Thank you so
What
much,
we
Bernie, for
must
showing
do-
up.
No, of course. No, we must stand together as one people, united behind labor, because if we do not, there is no way this country is going to survive much past 2023 or any further into the future. We are looking at a very dark future. Unfortunately, I have to support my good friend Joe.
Joe is not your fucking friend.
Well, I don't have a lot of friends, so you got to give me a
Whatever.
break. Let me just accept that I'm going to try to push it very gently, maybe a little forceful every once in a while, that he might come around and understand that there are very pressing issues for the American people right now.
Oh my
So,
God.
I need to
Vaush,
get better
I
at
don't get to
impressions.
watch your podcast. I heard it's very popular. The kids seem to love it. So keep spreading the good message about we must have social democratic policies in this country. It's what the American people want. They just don't have enough leaders that are out there fighting on their behalf. But rest assured, my fellow Americans, I am fighting on your behalf. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. I will go enjoy my Festivus, Hanukkah, Christmas weekend with my family. Jen, good to see you. Vaush,
Bye,
keep
Bern.
doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Bernie. You're an inspiration to us all.
He
God, that's so
inspired
good.
me. He inspired me more.
He does
than,
good, Bernie, right?
Yeah, more
He does
than
good.
most.
He does good. Period.
Yeah, he does some good ones. Yeah.
No, I try. I try. And again, it's like, why do we do this? We do this because we give a shit. Because we believe. We believe that, you know, tomorrow could be a better day for the American people. Did Nevin Gusick actually drop us 20? Nevin, I'm going to assume you did that because you really liked my impression. That's what I'm going to assume.
That's a fair
I'll pretend
assumption.
like that's my tip. My tip for doing the Bernie impression. I'll take that.
All right.
So you guys have obviously been
Nice.
great. Vaush, what are you working on? Anywhere that anybody can find you? Anything specific?
He's exactly where he is. That's where people find him. He's right there.
Well, there
Howdy.
could be people who don't know him, so I don't know. I'm just trying to help him.
You can
Yeah, he needs our help.
you can find me at Vaush pretty much everywhere. It's been a delight to be here. I'm really looking forward to what kind of good we can do in 2023. If you know, if at all, might be 2023 fucking sucks. And if that's the case, you know, then I look forward to weathering and surviving 2023 as we have this winter storm that has blitzed Seattle, and frozen my roads and kept me from getting more cat food when they need it.
You have legal cannabis and death with dignity. I don't want to hear anything from you.
Actually,
people.
I think Oregon has death with dignity.
No,
Now,
Washington does it
you
too.
have it now? Oh, good. Good.
They have it, and Oregon has it.
We recently lost large caliber magazines, so actually our freedom is waning.
Oh, man.
Oh, good
If
God.
all-
How are you going to live?
How-
I
you ever-
know.
Oh man, and you know the funny thing is that when you go to the gun range and you're using that type of weaponry, you just know that there are people who do it because they really wish they were doing. They're imagining who they could be doing it to. I'm sorry, guys, but it's one thing when you're shooting a pistol, when you're shooting a rifle, there is a huge difference when you're shooting a machine gun. Sorry, just had to put that up.
You're such a gun aficionado.
I am in favor of the Second Amendment, but I'm also realistic, and I think more and more Americans need to be realistic. But I digress. Vaush, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's good
and
to see you.
obviously, happy holidays to you, and we'll hopefully
Happy New
We'll
Year.
have another conversation in the new year.
Yeah, don't
You know-
go too far.
I think we will.
All
Have a wonderful holiday. And
Bye,
I'll talk to
Vaush.
you all soon.
Be well.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Well,
He's so sweet.
yes, and I know
He's a
you're big
nice
fan.
boy because he's so smart.
Always love those conversations. Yeah, that was Jen Perelman. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy.